Welcome to Pop Culture Roulette for all your pop culture needs. We're America's podcast.
Yeah.
So, I love making fun of the Cowboys as often as I can, and most people don't get that joke. So, they call themselves America's team, so we started calling ourselves America's podcast because if they can make it up, so can we.
That's fair. Sports references right over my head, man. I got no idea anything about fucking the sports
that
balls or the foosballs or.
that's fine. This will be a rare episode without sports. Then, okay.
Oh no, we could go into it. I'm just gonna be like,
No. If there's no reason to talk about it, there's no reason to talk about it. So, by now you've probably already heard. This is not a normal episode. This is Jeremy and Justin won't be joining us today. I'm joined by Josh Rouse, director of. Oh man, I wrote the wrong reasons.
Just wrong reasons.
Just wrong reasons. Just wrong reasons. Okay.
And not just wrong reasons. It's wrong reasons.
Right, wrong reasons. I'm sorry. I did watch it and it was very enjoyable.
Oh.
And I've got because you put it on Tubi. I wanted to see it before, but I don't have a lot of extra budget. But as soon as it became available on Tubi, I definitely watched it and it was fun. It was very interesting. I've got a couple questions about it, but worth watching. Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What was the genesis of you directing the wrong reasons? I keep wanting to put it just makes more sense.
Sure, I feel you. I mean, honestly, I've been working for years in the industry. I think like 12 years at that point. I'm like on year 13 now. And I just wanted to do an exercise in moral ambiguity. What if you could have saved, and it's a bit of a spoiler, so cover your ears if you give a shit about that kind of thing, but it's kind of crucial when talking about the plot. If you could have saved an Amy Winehouse or a Kurt Cobain or, insert, celebrity that died of drugs here, would you have been doing it if it was against their will would you be doing the right thing for the wrong reasons or the wrong thing for the right reasons? So I really kind of wanted to do something in that vein of thought while also kind of talking shit on the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, I definitely I picked up on that, and it was because I mean you do make some obvious references to it when the guy is talking to her and telling her, while she's chained up, about so and so, and I was like, I feel like there must be a bit of a personal thing here where because I know that you also have a heavy music background.
Truth.
Yeah, you've been in bands, you've directed music videos for bands. So I was like, there must be a personal thing here where if I could have done this, would I have done it? Obviously you take some of it to the extreme, but
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've been in bands since 13 years old. My first band was I forget the name. It's been so long ago. But my second band was with a good friend of mine who we share a friend with, Robbie Bauer, who tattoos out of Ohio. And that's Nick's best friend, how we know each other.
Okay.
So I moved to California, and I'm sure we'll go into them here in a minute. But I moved to California at 19 years old, immediately joined punk bands. I went to college as an excuse just to join a bunch of punk bands in Orange County because it's my favorite scene of all time.
Okay.
And then I kind of became along the way disenfranchised with the music scene and kind of chose instead to become a director. I got tired of having four sweaty dudes in a sweat box with huge egos battling over which direction to go. So I was like, how can I remain an artist, quote unquote? I'm not really, but while also making stuff that I find interesting to create. And then I got into film and I shortly realized that you got to deal with actors. So there's just no fucking winning.
No, I guess you're dealing with ego regardless. It's just what ego you want to deal with. I would say, I'm guessing making a movie is probably less sitting in a van.
Yes,
Eh,
yes, yes, 100%. And you're a bit more of a captain. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, but it's still like a group effort no matter what you do,
right.
and it should be. Like, I shouldn't
Like
be such an asshole.
right. Like I have no musical ability. I mean, I played tenor saxophone in middle school and I quit because I didn't want to be
That's
in marching.
music.
Yeah, but I quit because I didn't want to be in marching band and I haven't picked it up since. So I bet if I picked it up now, it would be completely lost on me. But that
I feel you.
I
I
love
feel you.
music. I love listening to music, but I can't make it to save my life. Like Nick so a few minutes ago I played my new theme song, which obviously you didn't hear because I didn't play it that
It kicked
live. But
ass. It was the best theme song I've ever heard.
Nick gave me a new theme song because he was sitting around in the hotel bored and he's like, "Do you want to? I want to do something musically. Like, do you want a theme song?" I'm like, "Sure." And he goes to his room. Like an hour later, he texts me, "Here you go." Like, what the hell? Like you know how long it takes me just to come up with a script for a podcast? You did a new theme song in I mean, granted, it's only 30 seconds, but still, or 30, 35 seconds. But I mean, it
Sure.
was just, and like I've been kind of binging out on the Night Beast, which are a lot of fun. And then I mean, I'm not as much into to punk as a lot of other people are. I do enjoy punk.
Sure.
I mean, I do I'm into punk enough to know there's a massive difference between the Orange County scene and like the New York scene.
Sure.
But like I don't know, like I'm very picky when it comes to certain punk and what I like to listen to.
I feel that.
I definitely like a lot. I'm old. I
You and me both, bud.
yeah. I came to the realization, because growing up, your parents are, your dad or your mom are always like, "Oh, your music is terrible. Oh, how do you listen to that?" And you're like, "Well, you just don't get it." And then at some point, I realized that I must have become my dad because I listened to this, the
Heaven's
news,
the best of us.
like I listened to the new stuff, and I'm like, I get where he was coming from now. This somewhere around 2012, 2013, music just stopped being good. Like,
Yeah, I mean, but there's always been bad music. There was bad music in the
yeah,
70s and the 80s. There was disco. There's still a great scene out there, and like I've seen part of it. But I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I'm not clued into. But whatever on the radio is generally just fucking garbage.
yeah. I mean, I have no. I mean, I do find myself on YouTube rabbit holes a lot recently, where I'm
I
finding a
feel
lot
that.
of I find a lot of random music that I'm like, wow, these guys are actually pretty good. And then
Sure.
when I find it, I'll hit over to Apple Music or whatever because I didn't make a political stance about not using Spotify like Neil Young did, but
Right.
I just hate the user interface of Spotify.
Okay. I feel that.
So because I well
Nothing like
mainly
a bad GUI.
yeah, I mean it was mainly I was forced to use Spotify for a while because my one of my favorite podcasts, Last Podcast on the Left, went exclusive to Spotify.
Sure.
And then as soon as their exclusive contract went up, I went right back to what I was using before because it was like, oh, I couldn't stand it. And maybe musically Spotify is better, but for a podcast, they're terrible.
Sure, I feel that. I even went to I tried oh God, what was it called? There was the one that Jay-Z put out that was lossless streaming.
Oh,
It and it
title.
was just title. Yeah, thank you. Oh my God, you're totally right. And it was like pristine quality, but man, you want to talk about a bad GUI, man. Like that was the worst interface I've ever encountered. And like it tried to pump much bandwidth. I've got like a Google Home with speakers everywhere. It just choked on it constantly. And I've got a good internet connection, so it's their fucking servers.
Yeah, well, you can always tell. They try to hide it. So I did
Truth.
have one question. Before I get to some of them, I'm gonna ask some cliche, boring questions, but I
No
want to
such
try to.
thing.
When you had in the movie, you had NIN News.
Yeah.
Any chance that was Nine Inch Nails inspired?
100% it was. I am not a Nine Inch Nails fan, though I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's scores and stuff. But my producer, Matt Rowbottom, is a huge Nine Inch Nails fan.
I
So I was like, we had to get everything cleared with the lawyers, like all the, like, God, I can't even remember. It's not CNN, it's the other one,
oh yeah.
USBCN. All that had to be cleared. So when they cleared NIN, I was just like, are you fucking serious? We snuck this through. So somehow they let us get away with it. So I put it in there right away. And Matt's just like, just 9 inch down. I'm like, yes, just for you, bud. Just for you.
Yeah, I mean, at first I didn't get it, but then I saw it and I'm like, he's talking about a lot of music. It has to be. There's no way that's an accident. There's
For
no
sure.
way. What was what was it like getting Ralph Garman to do a movie? But then keep him on a little bit more of I wouldn't say not funny, but like not letting him kind of run wild with the comedy like he's kind of known for.
Sure. I mean, I've worked with Ralph on Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman's podcast, Hollywood Babylon, for over 10 years now. Like, Ralph and I were just hanging out the other night trying to figure out when I actually started. It was sometime around 2007 is our best guess, maybe a little bit later than that. But he's as long as I've known him, he's been an actor. And like I'd say it was probably 9 or 10 years ago I wrote the first version of the script, of which there's been like 13 at this point. And I let him read it with the idea of him playing Dobson. And he had notes, and they were fantastic notes. And then slowly, as we realized we weren't going to get $2 million to make this movie, we realized that we weren't going to get $1 million to make this movie. We realized we weren't going to get $500,000 to make this movie. I took his notes and incorporated like how to trim it down and trim it down and trim it down while keeping like the soul of the experience and the soul of his character. Ralph was the fucking cheerleader for this movie. He is one of the most like northern stars of a male presence I have in my absolute life. He is a sweetheart of a human being. He can be a
Yeah.
twat, don't get me wrong.
I mean, everybody can at some point. I mean,
Sure.
we all have those days, you know. I mean, I debated on whether or not I was going to bring this up because I didn't want to, you know, make myself to be too much of a nerd. But
Bring it on.
one of the main reasons I got into podcasting was Kevin Smith.
Sure.
Me and Jeremy, the guy who I was hoping they could join us, but unfortunately, sometimes work gets in the way. We became friends at work because we both discovered that we love Tell 'em Steve Dave.
Oh, sure. Those guys are great.
And then we were like, we also both like geeked out over like Kevin Smith films and Smodcast and like he had started a different podcast and he had me come on and we both had a lot of fun and we were like, we took his advice of just do it.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've heard that speech 100 times, you know.
More than that, bud. More than that.
And so we did it, and we've been doing it. I mean, this is going to be like episode like 108, 109, something like that.
Fuck yeah! Congratulations.
But this is technically like episode 220 something because
Okay.
we did 100 episodes. The thing fell apart. Life got in the way. I moved from, I mean, it was 30 minutes, but it was 30 minutes. I moved from a place called East Troy to Burlington.
Okay.
And Jeremy had some life issues and the podcast kind of died.
Okay.
He got clean. My life settled down and we started back up and we were like, we are not going to acknowledge the first 100. And we started back over at one, but we've been doing it
Wow, that's
we've been,
ballsy.
well, and we've kind of scrubbed the original 100 from the internet. So that, you
I
know,
feel you.
yeah, because there's just certain we were all three of us were in a different headspace,
I get that.
you know, and so we try to be better people now, you know.
I mean, I get that as well. Like, the times they are changing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. But you know, so that was, you know, so like when I was talking with Nick a couple weeks ago, and he brought up you as a person that he knew as a friend, and I was like, I knew your name. He wasn't like he was just like most people don't know who that is, and I'm like, oh, I know him. I know Dr. Josh Roush.
Oh, thanks, man.
So is there did Kevin give you that nickname, or did you come into the scene with that, or where did that nickname come from?
I brought it in 100%. I'm a huge Hunter S. Thompson fan. And when he was early in his journalistic career, he purchased from the Universal Life Church for $25 a doctorate of divinity, thus legally being able to claim that he is a doctor. So, of course, at 19 years old, I did the exact same thing and adopted the moniker Dr. Josh Roush.
Okay, all right. I like it. I like
I ain't a
it.
doctor as shit. I can marry people, though.
I don't know if I can anymore or not. I was ordained when I was working
Oh,
down in
okay.
Florida, but since I don't work in the church anymore, I don't know if it counts.
I feel that.
I don't know where legally I stand on any of that anymore. So I wasn't sure I was going to be able to bring some of this stuff up, but you said I can. The director would like
Sure.
to shank Robbie Fields.
You are the first person that's asked me about that. Thank you so much for that. Fuck that motherfucker. 10 ways from fucking Sunday. Do you know who he is?
No, I don't. That's why I was wanting to know first off who he was and why you want to shank him. Obviously, he did something.
Oh, fuck him with a 10-foot pole. So I'm not going to name the band, but there was a band that is in our movie that we had the rights to one of their early songs. And we had the festival rights, but not the, in perpetuity, forever, always throughout the universe rights. And like this dude, every band, I can't say the number, every band on the soundtrack of which there is a plentiful amount of like really, really solid punk rock bands, did it all for the same chunk of change. It's called most favored nations agreement.
Okay.
And this guy, like at the last second, for a band that wasn't as big as the other ones, decided that he needed $62,000 to get this thing. Our entire budget was 92. And like he like didn't say it respectfully. He came after my then wife in an aggressive way, and he used words that I'm not going to repeat because he's from England. Maybe you can say it. I don't know. Or he lives in England, I guess I should say. He's not from England, but he was the head of Posh Boy Records in Orange County, and they put out the original records of Social Distortion, Channel 3. I might be wrong when I say Adolescence, but I don't think I am. Maybe they were on Frontier, actually. A lot of original Orange County bands. And when it came time to actually sign the deal, he thought he was going to get $62,000 out of me. So I went to the band. I'm like, you guys are one of my favorite bands of all time. I absolutely adore you. They're like, here's a different song and use it for free. I'm like, we can't do free. We'll pay you what everybody else is getting. But thank you for using a song that's not owned by this piece of shit. So that was like a last second addition to the edit that sent us back probably into the audio phase, like a good month or so.
Oh,
And caused a delay and a lot of stuff that just rolled downhill after that. Because once you're finalizing and you lock, and then you go back to unlocking, it's a whole thing.
I can only
Thank you
imagine.
for letting me finally get that off my chest. I'm going to tweet this out and be like, here's the
Well,
explanation.
there, no, don't hesitate to tweet out any. I am using you to make to move my
Do
name.
it.
I'm absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to be
Whatever
shy
works,
about that.
bro.
But
Whatever works.
the other question I have was David Keckner.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's one of my favorites. I mean, he's great. I can't necessarily think of anything he's like the main, the lead in, but he's so
Sure.
good in his bit parts. Like he's just one of those, like, you're going to get a great character when, he shows up in something. Um, so I was,
100%.
so I was like, wow, you got David Keckner. And again, kind of like when you had Ralph Garman, you're like, you didn't really use him for what he's known for in comedy, but he's still, it's still David Keckner, it's still really cool to see him in a movie.
Sure. Yeah, we tried to cast against type for a fair majority, but Keckner is just like one of the nicest dudes on the planet. I worked because of Hollywood Babylon, I ended up working the sound booth at the Hollywood Improv for like 2 years and change. So I put everybody up from like The Rock to Seinfeld, you name them, I put them up, Chappelle, whatever. But Keckner is one of the few people where we would just sit and just hang out and just chill and like have a beer. Like he was just such an authentic dude, and we did it so many times, and we just chilled. And eventually, I don't even remember why we exchanged numbers. And then we found out we had a bunch of mutual friends and stuff, like because I volunteer for an organization called Muzak that puts guitars in the hands of underprivileged youth. They're a great organization. But like he started coming to those Muzak events, and we started hanging out even more. And he just like he was so game to do anything. He even brought his own like wardrobe to set because we were such a low budget production. And on his level, that is not something you ask people to do. And he was just like, yeah, fuck yeah, I don't give a shit. Like,
He does.
couldn't
He
say enough
does.
nice things about him.
He does seem like a very down to earth guy. I mean, I consume media probably on a level that is not healthy, but that is,
Sure. No, me neither.
I have a podcast called Pop Culture Roulette. So, like
I feel you.
I've taken over the editing. Jeremy used to do all the editing,
Sure.
but he went back to school and he does a couple other shows, so I had to learn. I've had to been teaching myself how to do editing. So
I feel you. I used to do all the editing on my own pods, and like occasionally I do it for others, and I hate it. It's tedious, and
I
I'll be on any pod as long as I don't have to edit it.
I've come to enjoy editing my stuff. I don't know if I'd enjoy editing other people's stuff because like I'm willing to cut myself, but like other people, like I'm so afraid of cutting their, them, because like I don't want to be seen as
Sure,
like, trying to step over their lines any more than I already am.
totally. I feel
Um,
that.
but so I'll try to make myself sound a little better, but I probably won't. Okay, so
You're
we've
doing great, man.
yeah.
You're natural at this. You're fun.
So the Kevin Smith job, when you started working, or how did you get the job working with Hollywood Babylon?
So I predate Babylon working for Kevin. The long and short of it is in 2005 when I decided to move to California. I first took a trip with my dad, and we went to the Vulgarthon in Los Angeles, which for those that don't know is Kevin Smith's like film festival of all his films. Then he does like some Q&As. And I met him there, and honestly, he was just such a nice guy that when I moved to California, I decided like that was definitely where I wanted to go. He started having events because he had the West Coast Stash at the time,
Right.
which is his comic book shop. He had the West Coast version, and they would do these poker nights where if you bought $300 in merch, you could play poker with Kevin Smith and get to hang out with him and pick his brain. So I did that once, and I realized that like of the 12 people there, I was the only one that knew how to play poker. And even though I paid $300 to get in, I was walking away with like 400 or 500. So I was like, not just hanging with him, but kind of making bank on the side as well. So I just kept doing this until he and I kind of became, not friends, but acquaintances. So when they started shooting Babylon at the John Lovitz Comedy Club around 2007 or 8, they put out a tweet and they were just like, hey, JC Reifenberg, the guy who does Fat Man on Batman and the guy who owns Scum and Villainy, at the time he was running the camera crew, and he put out a tweet saying, hey, we're looking for unpaid PAs, whatever. And I was working at Sony at the time, but I had like enough hours to justify like a second job. So I just started training on cameras and training in the vocation that eventually became my career. And then eventually JC stepped away because he's so fucking rich and famous now. I'm not even being like sarcastic. Like the dude is doing well for himself. That I just kind of became the go-to guy for all that stuff.
Oh, that works. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm not bitching.
Because I mean, like because Nick sent one of the first thing Nick sent me was the video that you put him in.
Oh yeah.
That
For my buddies Empired.
Yeah, that song was really good. I really thought that song was
Oh.
good. There's a podcast I listen to called No Dogs in Space.
Oh yeah. I've listened to that before.
Okay, yeah. They're attached to the last podcast guys, but they did they did a really deep dive on punk, Jello Biafra.
Oh, for sure. Fuck yeah.
Why am I blanking on the name of his band? I can remember Dead Kennedys. I can remember his name, but I can't remember the band's name.
Fair. Usually it's the other way around, but yeah, fair.
Yeah, they did a really deep dive on them and a couple other big punk bands. So like
they did one on the Cramps I listened to. They've done a couple that I've listened to. I'm not a podcast guy, but I've definitely listened to a few of their series.
Yeah. So I mean, they're doing a German thing right now, but they're really mainly because he's got so many other podcasts that he works on. I think that one kind of is just more of a passion project, so it doesn't necessarily get the attention.
It seems like a lot of research, a hell of a lot of research.
Yeah, I want to do more research for my podcast and I want to be more dedicated, but I have a 40-hour-a-week job.
I feel you.
I work on I'm a maintenance, I'm a service mechanic, so I fix and repair engines and construction equipment.
What kind?
Mainly construction equipment. I don't do I don't do cars.
Backhoes, Bobcats, shit like that.
Smaller.
Okay.
More specialized in concrete trowels.
Okay, yeah.
Generators.
Like concrete finishers and shit.
Yeah, concrete finishers, stuff like that. Like,
I feel you. I grew up doing construction, so like I'm literally down here in Florida right now with my dad working on his new wood shop, and he owns a construction outfit out of Middletown, Ohio called Roush General Contracting. So I grew up with all that shit.
Okay, yeah. Very rarely do people actually know what like a plate compactor or a concrete trowel,
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
like a oh yeah, yeah. A riding like a riding trowel or a walk behind
Sure.
trowel or yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm not going to say you name it, I can fix it because I have my limit. Diesel, I'm very weak on diesel, but
It's a different beast.
yeah, but the small gas engines, I've taught myself how to tear down a Honda and rebuild that,
Oh,
from the
good on
ground
you.
up.
Fuck
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but yeah, that takes a lot out of me. So like when I get home, sometimes I just want to chill with the dogs or the wife and go from there. What,
No, I totally get that.
after you did or before you did Wrong Reasons or some in while you were making it, you clearly made a documentary about Michael Parks.
Yeah, yeah. That started 4.5 years ago. For those that don't know, like Michael Parks, famous for his role of Earl McGraw. Can you hear me still? I think I
Yeah,
touched a
yeah.
button.
No, I
Okay,
can
cool.
still hear you. Yeah.
Killer. Yeah, so known for his known for his role as Earl McGraw on Dusk Till Dawn, probably one of his bigger things. If you're an older person, probably then came Bronson as the title character. He did a movie with Kevin called Tusk, and it was his second movie with Kevin, but I wasn't working on Red State. I was too green, too new to the situation. But when he came around for Tusk, he had just had a massive accident that nobody really talks about and has talked about publicly. Our doc will eventually, but he suffered brain damage, and he was probably 30% brain capacity of what that guy used to be. So he had a really hard time with lines. He had a hard time getting around set. He had a really hard time in general, just as a human being. He was out of the ICU a month, I think, like not even that for a traumatic brain injury. So Kevin, like I was part of the behind the scenes crew, and Kevin kind of put me on him. He parked me on Parks, as he likes to say. And I became his assistant, his handler, his driver, everything. So like him and I just kind of started hanging out, and like it was this grumpy ass old man and this young tattooed dude who thought he knew fucking everything. And he just like start talking to me about like, oh, my buddy Lenny, we hung out in San Francisco. He didn't like the cops very much. I was like, talking about Lenny Bruce? He's like, I said Lenny, weren't you listening to me? And like he knew MLK. Like he was a pallbearer at fucking Lenny Bruce's funeral. He knew MLK. Like he knew everybody. I found him endlessly fascinating, and we would just sit around shooting the shit. So when the movie was done, like we just kept hanging out. And like I'd take him out to lunch like every couple weeks. And I think I moved that guy's fucking storage locker 5 different times for him and his wife. Like so like I was there for the man. Like so when we were trying to get a doc off the ground while he was alive. Unfortunately, like we couldn't get the capital together, but once he passed, I hit up Kevin. I was like, we cannot let this man's memory fade away. So we started working on Long Lonesome Highway, the story of Michael Parks, and we've got everybody except for one Holy Grail interview that we've been sitting on a locked edit for 5 years waiting on. And it looks like we may or may not get it, but at this point, it's been too long. I need to put this project in the rear view. I'm trying to have a fresh slate of new work. We're going to put it out next year, regardless, early 2024. And it looks like it's probably premature to say, but the distributor of Wrong Reasons MVD did me right, and I love everybody involved. They even sent me a candle for Christmas, which is fucking endearing as shit. Probably going out through them would be my hunch.
Okay. All right. Well, because I saw that you had done it, and I was like, I knew. Well, I'd heard you were working on it. So I went to the website, and I was like, it made it sound like it was out already, and I'm like, did I miss it? And I couldn't find it anywhere. But I was like, man, maybe I'm just really bad at finding stuff, and normally I'm not.
No.
But okay, so it's just not out yet.
Yeah, early 2024 is
Okay.
definitely going to be the release. Before March, I would
Okay.
guess to say.
Are you able to say the Holy Grail interview that you're looking for, or is that one of those like you got to keep it secret in case you actually get it?
Nobody has asked me to keep it secret, but I don't want to upset anybody. But if you think of his biggest career resurgence, you could probably put two and two together.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say
Yep,
anything.
yep. But I probably shouldn't drop the name.
But that if anybody can talk more than Kevin, it would probably be him.
Oh yeah,
That might be a whole like part two documentary because you filled up so much space.
that's true. That's true. And like to his credit, I mean, there was I was set to go do it, and then a fucking pandemic happened, and that took 2 years away, and he was stuck in another country. So like, I'm not talking shit. It's not his fault at all.
Yeah.
But it is just a circumstances being what they are. I kind of just need to plow ahead.
Okay. Obviously, if you're trying to move forward, you have ideas for what you want to do next. What's next on the horizon, or do you have anything concrete enough to go?
Let's see. Narratively speaking, I'm working on 3 projects. I should just concentrate on one and not like, split my time so haphazardly. So I'm not willing to talk about those just yet. But I am working on 3 documentaries, one of which I'm not directing. One I'm just shooting, and that's for Ernie O'Donnell, who's Rick Darris. And we're shooting a documentary on Kevin's new theater, of which I own 5% of. Kevin was nice enough to just gift it to me because I worked there for an entire winter for free, and he surprised me. The second one is a digital versus analog experimental doc that I'm doing, which is in the vein of F for Fake if you are an Orson Welles nerd.
Okay.
It's a deep cut. But basically, it's going to be 1/3 why digital media is better than analog media or physical media, 1/3 why physical is better than digital, and 1/3 how, through the power of editing, I convinced you of either side, and kind of showing like how news broadcasts can give you the exact same figures and statistics, spin them 2 completely different ways, and make you think a totally different thing than you're accustomed to thinking.
Okay. I see the value of both. I mean, I have
Sure,
an
sure.
entire wall of DVD in my basement, and
Oh,
Blu-ray,
for sure.
DVD, Blu-ray. Like I've got hundreds of them down there. I can't tell you how many times I've still just streamed a movie that I know I own in my
Yeah.
basement.
Oh, same, same.
Yeah.
And it keeps it in better condition if you stream it.
Yeah. And it's like
And like one of the cruxes.
I could just
Oh,
go
go ahead.
down there, but I'm just gonna.
But it's right. It's 1 click away.
I'm already here on the
Well, and like,
couch.
and one of the best arguments for and against is like, in a digital world, everybody gets a voice. In a physical world, is that a good thing? Do you know what I mean? If everybody has a
Yeah.
voice, does it drown everybody out? Like, and I think the only way to correctly ask an audience that question is to present both sides equally as passionately and then let them make up their own fucking mind. Like with Wrong Reasons, I know it's high fucking talking and I'm just some bullshit asshole out of Ohio, but like we didn't want to answer the question whether he did the right thing or the wrong thing. We just presented what happened, and it's just like, make up your own fucking mind. Like, did he do the right thing? She survived. Did she turn back to drugs? I don't know. Fucking, it's kind of up to the viewer to take what they want out of that movie.
Yeah, yeah, I did notice there was a slightly ambiguous ending. I mean, I think it comes from where you are mentally when you sit to watch the movie as to how you take the ending of the movie. Because like
I would agree.
because I was sitting in a like I was pretty happy when I watched it, so I was like, I think she did the right thing, you know.
Sure.
Where I was like, oh man, that just when you were talking about physical media, you got me thinking. Like I used to love going to Best Buy and
Same.
just and digging through the CDs trying to find that one.
Yep.
Back at I don't know how. Like I look back on my time because I was in high school and college in the 90s. Like I started high school in 92 and I graduated college in December of 2000. So my wheelhouse musically is that.
Sure.
And like I struggle to remember how I found like new bands now, but back then, like I knew every band. I knew how many albums they had, and like going to the record stores or going to because I
Yeah.
lived in Atlanta, finding the used record stores and digging through and being like, oh, I finally found that one, rare B side or
Sure.
and how I knew that stuff even existed then, I don't know because the internet barely existed, and now it's like
Totally.
everything is at my fingertips and I can't remember shit.
I feel you. I used to go to some record store. I think it was CD Connection in Middletown, Ohio, and they had a book of what they could order. And like I was after the Nirvana Outcesticide bootleg series that Blue Moon put out in Europe at the time. And this is pre-internet. This is like fucking 96, or at least pre-internet, my availability to it. Um, but they had on there the Nirvana singles box set, which had all the B-sides to like, Lithium, the B-side to Teen Spirit. And like, so of course I ordered that up and had it imported from like, I think Italy at the time. But I cared a lot more passionately about that shit because it wasn't at my fingertips. It was so rare. I just had to have that thing.
Yeah.
And
I,
I kind of scratch that itch with records now.
yeah. I feel like I'd have to get some friends from high school or college if any of them were still willing to talk to me. I must have at certain points of my life been just an insufferable asshole because like I think about like how my thoughts on music and like where I was then and I'm like I'm a little more open to it now. My wife is really into country. I hate country music, but I listen to it and I can, like I can put up with it a little bit more. But like I
Sure.
just in college, I guarantee you there would have been part of me going, like, just, whatever. I just,
I mean, I've opened up my ears a little bit, and like, I love classic country. I love outlaw country. I love country esque
well,
stuff, punk country. But popular country can suck a dick.
yeah, oh no, you're 100. And I guess I draw the line and like I have to be very careful, like when I listen to like Steve Earle to be like,
Sure.
he's not country, he's bluegrass, or because
Right,
like I
right,
want to
right.
I want to maintain this, like I hate country and still put up with the fact that like I mean I know he's a little bit more modern, a little bit more mainstream, but like Chris Stapleton is actually pretty good.
Yeah, you're going to be on that side of that argument, bud. I'll be on the other.
But I well, I mean, like especially when he does the stuff with like when he was well, did he do anything with Chris Cornell before Cornell passed, or
I
was
do
that
not know.
okay? There because I think he's the one that was doing. Like he did the heavy as the crown or heavy as the and there's some of the guys, but for the most part the modern stuff is just like my boss has the country station on and they play the same 8 songs,
Yeah.
so
I
I
think
try not.
Parks always had a good line. It was my dog and my truck and my wife and my duck and why don't you love me, baby? Like just all dribble. It's all
Yeah,
dribble.
yeah, I try not to spend much time in that part of the shop so I don't or in that part of the
That's
building
fair.
so I don't have to listen to that. I put on my Apple Music and play whatever I feel like. Today was, I miss grunge from the 90s and
Fair.
that's, I mean,
The last major popular music movement to happen that was worth a shit.
yeah, well that I was talking with Nick and like I challenged myself and I picked like alternative because Apple Music does their like best of alternative and that you can pick a year. So like I started
Okay,
with like 92 and I was like how many years can I get to before I'm like I just can't do it.
that's fair.
And I got like I mean I alluded to it already but like I got to like 2012, 2013, and I was like nope, that's
Yeah,
because there I mean there's still some really good stuff that comes out but it's harder for me to
sure.
find and like I work with a kid who was born the same year I graduated high school and like some of the music he talks about it's like, oh, what are you even talking
Oh,
about? Like,
fair,
or he'll
fair.
play, or on Saturdays when it's just him and I, like he'll play some stuff, and I'm like, what is this?
I'll tell you, and I sing this praise from the toppest of the highest mountain. Henry Rollins has a show based out of Los Angeles on KCRW called Fanatic, and he goes through endless vinyls that are sent to him every week. Endless vinyls he finds on the road that look interesting or were referred to by record store owners because he lives on the road still. And he plays them and he spins them. And I would say I hate 60% of it. But I found so much new music that I adore and love through it. I heard Amel and the Sniffers before they got popular. I've heard a band called TV Noise. It's just a little tiny band out of Australia that is just fantastic. It is really like opened up my musical taste in a big bad way.
Do you remember CMJ?
CMJ, I know the acronym, but I can't place where or
I think
why.
it was technically for a while they might have changed it to mean something else, but I think when they first started, it was like College Music Journal.
Okay.
But they did a magazine, and then in every magazine they had a CD sampler of like 20, 24 songs. Like,
Okay.
it was like, and it was a different track, and half of the tracks sucked, and you knew you'd never hear from that band ever again.
Sure.
But there were a
Sure.
bunch, and I now that I'm saying it, that's how I found a lot of the stuff I was listening to. You know,
Okay. Hell
well,
yeah.
that and I living in Atlanta, I lived in like the perfect place for music in the '90s because
Okay.
Atlanta had 99X.
Okay.
99X was one of the biggest alternative grunge stations that existed. They broke Silverchair, Collective Soul, Sean Mullins. Like, you know, I mean, obviously Sean Mullins isn't alternative, but you know, he is, you know, a little bit more indie. But like they're the level of bands that I mean, I heard Our Lady Peace like a good couple months before they hit it big, you know, because
Oh wow.
these guys were on the cutting edge of everything when it came to like, you
Sure.
know, modern stuff. I mean, they ceased to exist for a while. They're trying to do a comeback, but I live in Milwaukee now, so you know I'm stuck in musical no
Copy.
man land.
Oh,
Trying,
I feel you, man. I'm in Florida right now. It's the same out here, bro.
I lived in Boca for a couple of years.
Okay.
I've
Okay.
I've lived in 9 states. I've lived now
Nice.
in Wisconsin for 15, and it's unlikely that I'll be going anywhere because my wife and her entire family live here. So and
That'll do it.
my parents just chose to move here, so it's unlikely unless we win the lottery we're going anywhere. Yeah, the,
Or you
the
cut all ties at once.
oh,
Throw
absolutely,
caution into the wind.
we've already said if we win the major lottery we're buying a compound in Montana and changing our name, and you'll never see or hear from us again.
Incredibly fair.
We're opening an animal preserve or some sort of animal sanctuary.
Sure. I
And
feel that.
but the you living in Boca, what part of Florida are you
I'm
staying in,
in
right?
Northport right now, which is like 80 minutes south-ish of Tampa. I'm only
Okay.
here for like the next 2 weeks. I'm helping my dad out, like I mentioned
Okay.
earlier. But North Hollywood is where I claim to be my residence.
Okay. Yeah. So I lived on the other side of the state. I lived over in
Okay,
the Boca Fort Lauderdale area. Um,
copy.
there wasn't a lot going on there. Like they had newfound
It's
glory.
Florida.
They had newfound glory, but that was about it. I mean, you know, I
Sure.
mean, they're really good, but yeah, the rest of it was just kind of like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I feel that.
I don't know why I wrote this note down, so you're gonna have to help me out. I wrote the note MST3K down.
Oh, I love Mystery Science like a motherfucker.
Okay, that I must because I was trying to do actual research and not go into this completely like a moron. And I
Sure.
wrote it down. I love MST3K. I remember back in the day
Same.
when they had the Thanksgiving Day marathon, and I would watch that rather than
Yes.
football.
I still watch Turkey Day to now. Like I just watched it on Thanksgiving.
I probably should have. It'd been a lot more fun.
I mean, a family, right? But yeah, I built the robots, so I have Tom and Crow at my house. I built them out of not the original parts, some original parts, but like the engine on Tom Servo's chest. You can't like actually buy that. They don't know what toy that was from, so it's all been casts, like plaster casts since the first version. So I had to buy that from the actual bot maker. Hell, I made these bots 20 years ago. But yeah, so I'm a huge Mystery Science nerd.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I can. I followed it from Comedy Central over to Sci-Fi or Sci-Fi to Comedy Central, whichever one it did.
Man, I think it was sci-fi to comedy if I'm not mistaken, but I could be
Yeah,
no, I think it was sci-fi to comedy actually.
yeah. So yeah,
Because they went KTMA to sci-fi to comedy.
okay, yeah. But there when I lived down in Florida, my friend and I like on Saturdays, rather than go out and do stuff, we'd watch MST3K in the morning or afternoon, whatever time it was on. We'd quote
Sure.
we'd quote the lines to each other like anybody had any clue, and we'd tell them what it was from. They'd just look at us like, "What are you morons?" Like,
So when I go visit my dad and he had, fucking weekend custody, I would watch it on his direct TV constantly. But then I go back to my mom's place and we didn't even have basic cable. So my aunt Lisa was kind enough to start buying me the limited VHSs that they had out there. Like
oh,
Brain Won't Die, I think was one, and fucking Mitchell was another. Mitchell was definitely
Mitchell.
one of them.
Oh, Mitchell's one of the
Yeah.
best.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, I guess that guy Don Baker fucking hated that. Like,
Yes,
I guess he got really mad.
he's one of the few that actually really hated it. Um,
Yeah,
what
which
a,
made
what
it
a,
even better to
yeah.
rewatch.
I can't remember. One of my favorite ones was Puma
Beer,
Man.
beer, Puma Man.
Oh,
Oh, I
I love
love Puma Man.
tee hee hee, tee hee hee. I'm a wood sprite. Or the a line that I quote to this day and nobody knows where it's from is like, "Help! I'm falling in an 90-degree angle, breaking all laws of physics."
My favorite is from one of their shorts, and it was God, it's about the rodeo, I think, like a kid's rodeo, and they're like, and the crowd goes mild. Yeah.
There was one that I didn't understand until about 15 years ago. It was it the giant spider invasion? I don't can't remember, but there was the movie was set in Wisconsin, and it was
Okay.
like the day the Earth. That wasn't the day the Earth stood still. That movie is too big, but
Yeah.
it had Alan Hale, yeah, the skipper,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
like there every time they had a crowd scene, they would be like, "Oh, Packers, Packers, Packers," and it's like and I was like, I didn't get it, and then I moved here. Now I'm like, nope, totally get it now.
Fuck yeah.
Totally understand those references now. But
Yeah, I
they
was really
they
bummed when they didn't hit their quota for the new season. That really bummed me out.
uh, yeah, I just I will I do you ever play around on Pluto?
No, but I've got the Mystery Science Gizmoplex app, which gives me
Oh,
like all
okay.
their old shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Pluto is it's free TV. I mean, it's whatever they can pick up for super cheap, but they have an
sure.
MST3K channel, so
Nice.
it's just a dedicated 24/7 like on a loop of just
Fuck yeah.
I don't know how often it rotates, but you can
Sure.
I'll just put it on and watch it for 10, 20, 30 minutes at a time, or
Oh, hell yeah.
when I'm just trying to waste time for a few minutes. But all
No,
right.
I feel that.
Well, before I take up too much of your time,
Oh, you're good, dude. I'm in
okay,
no rush. I'm still on West Coast time and like I'm on the East Coast, so I stay up late, probably pissing my dad off.
okay. I think we've touched on it a little bit already, but what feeds you? Not like well, not physically, but like emotionally, spiritually, physically, and well, physically. I mean, I don't need to know like what you're. I'm not asking if you like buffalo wings or pizza, but like what feeds you? Like what keeps you going creatively?
Honestly, just creation itself. And I know it's so fucking highfalutin and I sound like such an asshole saying it, but like I've been making a lot of music videos. I did 10 music videos in the last year, the last calendar year. But when I'm not doing that, I'm making cigar box guitars with my dad. When I'm not doing that, like I'm writing. When I'm not doing that, I'm shooting documentaries. When I'm not doing that, I'm, you know, I I'll help a friend move. Like honestly, just anything that accomplishes a goal probably distracts me from depression and hell. So it gets me through the day, and it just fuels me, and it makes me so happy to just make shit that wasn't there before. And like I've done 10 music videos, I'd say 4 of them I'm incredibly proud of, and 6 of them I'm proud of. But like I shot a music video for, I don't know if you're familiar, William Elliott Whitmore this year, who like he's one of my favorite artists of all time. He's kind of country, but I would call him bluegrass just to get away with it. But he's also got like a punk tinge to him. But we shot it on Super 8, and like I flew out to Iowa to go shoot it with him, and I didn't charge him a dime because he gave me one of his songs for wrong reasons, dirt cheap, like cheaper than he had any right to. So I was like, look, I got you for the next one. Don't worry about it. Went out there, put myself up, shot it on Super 8. Super 8 is incredibly stupid and cumbersome and expensive. And I got to do that for him. And it cost me, but like he offered to pay, don't get me wrong. But I wanted to do it to repay a favor. And it comes out, I think, in February. It's like one of the longest, like, I don't think his album comes out until January and it's the last single. But it was the most rewarding thing I think I've ever done in my professional life. Like, and it just makes me endlessly happy to say I did it and I did it for free.
Ah, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing and or seeing that.
Thank you. I don't
Um,
charge my friends money for music videos if they promise me a test pressing.
well, there you go. Um, just to because I ask everybody this one, if you could wedgie
Yeah.
anyone in history, who would it
Hitler.
be?
No, 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 no. Let's see. Who would it be? You did pregame me on this one, and I fucking forgot to fucking do the reference or the math. So let's see. Probably Robbie Bauer.
Okay.
Nick's good friend. He is we were in our first band together, the Jackoffs, at 16 years old. and he has came to it within his community in Dayton, Ohio, specifically the Oregon district. He is like the premier. I will call him the premier tattoo artist in Ohio. Period. But when he walks around, everybody's just like, "Oh my god, hi! Oh my god, it's Rob! Oh my god!" And he's like the mayor of the town. So to give him a wedgie in public, I feel would take him down to what he actually is just a little kid who just needs to be taken down a peg. Because fuck him.
Nice, nice. I do love that. I mean, and at 16, you guys probably thought naming your band the Jackoffs
We were
was
so hardcore, bro.
was you thought you guys were probably like the ultimate, like this was the funniest thing of all time, and you were so like, oh, and really,
We were so juvenile. At one point, we played a show with a band called the Wankers, and we were just like, "What are we doing?"
So, yeah, I mean, I do you, David Letterman used to have, like dice that he would spin, on, and it would be like to name a band. And I can't even remember there was some really weird, like he just put like 8 or 6 different names and he would always just, and they were just like, yeah, all right, that actually would be a pretty good band name. But,
Oh fuck yeah,
but it's also probably how like the Arctic Monkeys got their name, like,
probably.
because otherwise that makes no sense. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Any fictional world that you could live in?
Ooh, Satellite of Love, like in the Mystery Science universe. Like, I just want to pal around with two robots and watch bad movies all day and crack wise. Like,
You know what? That's a better answer than I think I've ever gotten, and I'm gonna have to change whatever I had been given to that because that does sound amazing.
right? That's it. Like, no worry about fucking like women or like anything. Just watching movies with your two best friends that you made, and like, oh god, that sounds fucking magnificent. What was yours?
I don't know if I've ever. No one's actually turned that question back around on me. I mean,
Aha.
so good on you for thinking. I don't know. Like, I mean, part of me thinks like I've watched a lot of like classic TV. So like Bewitched might be a lot of fun just because
Oh, that'd be cool.
you live in a world where like that like is a reality.
Yeah.
Like you have
Magic is possible,
the
yeah.
magic is possible.
And your wife's super hot.
Elizabeth Montgomery, I think would be pretty high on the list if she was alive. Like in her state from that show to now. Like if she, I think she would be,
Yep.
stand right there next to some of the ones that are on TV currently. So, yeah, I don't know though. I mean, like my initial would be like, I want to be in the Marvel universe. But if I'm not
Okay.
one of them,
Yeah.
it would be
Yeah.
terrible.
Totally.
Like,
Your house could be wrecked at any given point by a
right,
superhero or a
like
villain.
every other week you're calling your boss and telling you can't make it because the bridge got blown up again.
Yep. Totally. Yeah.
So unless you're one of them, living in that world would be awful. So yeah, I don't know.
Truth.
Like, yeah, living in a world where any problem that comes up gets solved in 30 minutes might be fun, and there's
I feel that.
magic. All right,
I
so
dig
what
that.
I normally I don't ask this question, but I because this is one that I do on my normal with Jeremy and Justin. What have you been watching recently? Like what have you
Ooh. I've been trying to do more movies before I came out here because I knew I was just gonna be working with my dad. So like I watched Killers of the Flower Moon. I actually went and saw The Long Goodbye, which is like a 76 film with Elliot Gould that is the very famous detective that I can't think of right now. Shit, what was his name? Fuck, can I bring it up? I cannot. Let's see, what else have I been watching? I watched a bunch of Michael Park stuff recently because I miss him. Like some episodes of Then Came Bronson, specifically the one where um, uh, um, Kurt Russell had one of his teenage roles in, which was just their chemistry is just fucking fantastic. What else have I been watching? Honestly, just news. I watched The Boy and the Heron recently because like I'm not a non-American animation guy per se. So I'm trying to find stuff to broaden my horizons a bit more. And that was fucking, it made me cry. It was so fucking good. Mainly just new releases and stuff more than anything.
Okay, yeah. Is no one of the people that listen to my podcast challenged me to like have a section where we talk about stuff that we've been watching and like where to watch it. And I was like, oh,
Sure.
that's actually smart. I have a pop culture podcast. I shouldn't just talk about because I decided to binge out the monsters because like I have Peacock
Okay.
and Peacock has a lot of really old stuff, and for some reason like I just spent a lot of time, and I was like, wow, here I am running a pop culture podcast, but all I'm doing is watching the monsters and old Quantum Leap and
I mean,
Night
there's nothing wrong with it.
Night Court. Yeah.
Did you watch the Munsters reboot that never went anywhere that became like a TV movie with Jerry
Yeah,
O'Connell?
I
And
it would have
I
been
fucking loved that.
I thought it was really interesting and I think it could have gone somewhere. And I think
Totally.
if it had come out like a year later or 2 years
Yeah.
later, where like Netflix or Hulu or somebody could
Yeah.
have picked it up, I think it might have gone somewhere. But it was in that
Yep.
like in between time,
Well,
where
and also they had a big regime change at Universal to where like the guy that took over Universal's CEO just fucking shit canned it and destroyed. They built that entire fucking Mockingbird Lane, like, and they just shit canned it overnight.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that like shows that only made it for a season that had
Mm-hmm.
they like had Firefly come out like 10 years after.
Sure.
I think it would have been done really well on not necessarily HBO, but like a Netflix or Peacock or somebody would have done,
Sure.
because I think had Chucky tried to come out like 10 years ago, it never would have made it.
Yeah,
But
I
because we
agree.
now live in the world of streaming where you can put something out like that. I mean, I
And
have
nostalgia.
right and nostalgia. I have not had a chance to sit down and watch Chucky yet. But my
I
wife
haven't
had, and
watched the show. Yeah.
she really enjoyed it. So,
Okay. I mean, speaking of one seasons, I'm the world's biggest Briscoe County Junior fan. Like,
oh,
I love that show.
a couple years ago, Bruce Campbell put out a tweet where he was talking about rebooting Briscoe County Junior. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yes, it's going to happen. It's finally. And then I realized what day it was.
Ah,
And I was like,
that bastard.
damn you, Bruce Campbell.
Damn you, Campbell.
How dare you mess with my feelings on April 1st and not make me think.
Yeah, that's just cruel.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. I know it's his thing and he was probably just having fun with it. But for those of us that were legitimately like big fans of Briscoe County Jr., like it was a little painful. It was a little hurtful.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. That's cruel, bro.
So, I mean, I could probably sit here and talk about a whole lot of other stuff, but I mean, I don't want to keep monopolizing your time since you were very nice enough. Where would you send people to look for your stuff, or
Sure.
where would you want people to find you?
All of my stuff can be found at anticurrent.com, ANTICURRENT.com. That's like my multimedia website, kind of my reel, so to speak. You can find Wrong Reasons at findcatodin.com, cat with a K. If you just Google it honestly, you can buy, if you're a physical media nerd, you can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray on Amazon for like $18. If you're a real nerd, you can go to Kevin Smith's Secret Stash website and you have to Google it. I think it's Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. And you can find copies for like $35 signed by me and Kevin. If you're a streaming nerd, I would say try to go to Apple TV because they're the only people that have it in 4K. If not, stream it wherever the fuck you can. And it's on Tubi now for free. So if you didn't have faith in me to begin with enough to actually spend the $10, friend, no, fucking like it's for free on Tubi. So good. I hope everybody checks it out. I don't care
Yeah,
how they watch it. I don't care if they torrent it. I would love everybody's eyes on it.
it wasn't a matter of not having faith in you. It was a matter
I'm
of
fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. But
it
no, I don't
was
care if they torrent it, man. Like I
yeah.
honestly, just as long as they watch it, like I didn't make this to make money. It's not gonna make money. Like
No, I mean, having Kevin
don't
Smith
tell the
attached.
financiers I said that.
Well, I mean, I have a listening audience of about 20, so I think you're good. Um,
I can increase that to 25.
all right, yes, hitting the big time. Yeah, all right. Well, then, yeah, I guarantee you, most of the people who listen to this show who aren't brand new to the episode, already know where how to find Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash.
Fair.
Well, actually, I guess it was about a year and a half ago now, but because it wasn't the last summer, it was the summer before. When I knew my parents were getting ready to move, my wife wanted to go to DC one more time, and
Okay.
so she figured out how close Atlantic City was, and
Okay.
she's like, "Let's go to Atlantic City," and I'm like, "Eh." And then I was like, "No, no, hold on. I will take you
I
to
know where
Atlantic
this is
City.
going.
I will take you to Atlantic City, and I will let you spend as much time or whatever you want in doing what you want to do.
I get one stop.
But I get one stop. Actually, I told her I get two stops.
Two? That
Yeah,
makes sense too.
two stops. We're going to Secret Stash, and then I'm going up
Going to
to
quick stop.
then I'm going to General Store.
Yep.
The Yeah, because
Yep.
I wanted to meet Walt and get him, and
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it'd be quick stop. My bad.
I don't. I mean, I probably should have gone to Quick Stop, but it was. I'm a massive Tell 'em
No
Steve Dave
judgment here.
fan.
I love all those guys. Those guys are all absolute sweethearts.
Yeah, I've been listening to well, I mean, I've been listening to Tell 'em Steve Dave longer than it's been when they got their start on Smodcast. So
Sure,
you know,
for sure.
so it was nice to walk into the store and meet Walt, and
He's a curmudgeon. You gotta
yeah,
love him.
I feel like I feel like I made a fool of myself, but I guarantee you he doesn't even remember I was there because I
Oh,
probably
wow.
you know
He's Walt. Like, I mean, he's
well
you
no
can't
and
get him
I,
excited about much.
No, and I knew that going in, but it was just a matter of like there was you have a thing of like oh you want to do a certain level and you get there and I don't living in Milwaukee I don't get a chance to meet a lot of quote unquote famous people and
Sure,
granted like if my wife had walked in there she would have been like oh this is just a guy running a store she has no idea who he
sure,
is she doesn't care but like I'm like
for sure.
that's the guy like
Tell him, Steve Dave.
Oh man. All right. I have an ending to the show and I normally
Okay,
find a segue to get there, but when I'm doing an interview or when I'm not with Jeremy and Justin, I always
sure.
stumble over myself. So
Okay.
I'm gonna rehash my own ending from a couple weeks ago and just be like, if you've been doing this show for a couple years and you still don't have an ending that makes sense, just remember, stupid never walks alone.
I dig it.
Comic books have been around for almost a century, and in the last 2 decades, we've finally gotten to see many of these characters brought to life in movies and on TV. On the Moving Panels podcast, we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. Join me and my guests as we discuss both the good and the bad from Marvel, DC, and even some of the lesser-known comic book companies. Learn what is and isn't from the comics, as well as our nerdy review of the movie or show. New episodes drop every Monday, and you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. So join us for Moving Panels, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.